The pumpkin fair. I'm going to the pumpkin fair. Pumpkins, pumpkins everywhere. These ones here were grown from seed. Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, indeed. The biggest pumpkin ever seen. The smallest one there's ever been. Mine's in between, hand-grown by me. I got the pumpkin seed for free. It has a lot of shiny dots. I call them pumpkin beauty spots. The boy next door thinks he's so smart. He says each one's a pumpkin wart. I cover up my pumpkin's ears. She'll feel so awful if she hears. Mr. Pumpkin shakes my hand, and there's the Peter Pumpkin Band. The Pumpkin Princess has a crown of little pumpkins all glued down. Pumpkin bowling, roll a few. Pumpkin dear, I won't roll you. Toss the pumpkin through the net. Oops, a pumpkin omelette. Tug-o-war, just hold on tight. Tug and tug with all your might. Slipping, slipping, sliding. We're in a bed of pumpkin mash. Juggle pumpkins 1, 2, 3. If you touch mine, you're history. I like spitting pumpkin seeds. They're smooth and white like little beads. Pucker up and let them fly. Spit 'em fat and split 'em high. Pumpkin creatures in a row. How are you? Hello, hello. Mouse and pig and kitty cat. Rabbit, snake and vampire bat. There's pumpkin cake and pumpkin pie. Eat until you think you'll die. Pumpkin ice cream, cookies too. There's even gooey party stew. I'll try them all except the stew. It's icky looking, gross. P.U. It's time for prizes, time for fame. I know they'll never call my name. My pumpkin isn't very big. She's not a mouse or dog or pig. I'll tell her that it's still okay. She's very special in her way. And then, how can it be? The pumpkin master's calling me. The best loved pumpkin at the fair. The best loved pumpkin anywhere. I get a ribbon, red and blue. My pumpkin gets a ribbon too. How did they know? How did they see the way I felt inside of me? It's growing dark, but through the night, the jack-o'-lanterns shine so bright. We all hold hands and sing a song of pumpkins round and pumpkins long, of pumpkins fat and pumpkins lean, and pumpkins somewhere in between. Good night, sleep tight, take care. See you at next year's pumpkin fair. Pooh's Pumpkin. One sunny spring day, Pooh and Christopher Robin saw Rabbit planting seeds in his garden. Rabbit, asked Pooh, what are you planting? Pumpkin seeds, said Rabbit. I would like to grow a pumpkin too, said Pooh. A growing pumpkin needs special care, said Rabbit. I will take good care of it, promised Pooh. Rabbit handed Pooh a seed. Pooh and Christopher Robin found a sunny spot near Pooh's house to plant the pumpkin seed. I will sit here and watch the pumpkin grow, said Pooh. But Pooh, Christopher Robin said, the pumpkin will not be ripe until next fall. That's a lot of sitting. My pumpkin needs special care, said Pooh, and that's just what I will give it. But first I have to get something to eat. Pooh went into his house and gathered all of his honey pots. Then he went back outside and sat with his honey. He watched the spot where the seed was planted. He watched and ate and ate and watched. And spring turned into summer. In the middle of the summer, Piglet stopped by. What a pretty vine you are growing, Pooh, he said. Oh, but Piglet, said Pooh sadly, I wanted a pumpkin, not a vine. Pooh went on caring for the vine. At the end of the summer, a flower was on the vine. Pooh was looking at the flower when Owl stopped by. Pooh, your flower looks just right. Keep up the good work, said Owl. Oh, but Owl, said Pooh sadly, I wanted a pumpkin, not a flower. Pooh, I will be happy to tell you what you are growing. You have a vine. You have a flower. A flower grows on a vine before there is a cucumber. You are growing a cucumber, Owl stated. Oh my, Pooh said. I wonder if cucumbers taste good with honey. Think, think, said Pooh to himself. Rabbit gave me a pumpkin seed, so it should grow into a pumpkin. I will keep caring for this plant and see what grows. Pooh went back to work, watching the plant and eating his honey. From time to time, the ground seemed dry, so he watered the plant. One day, the air was cooler. The leaves were just beginning to change colors. Pooh had fallen asleep. He woke up with a start. Eeyore was standing over him. There is a green ball on your vine, said Eeyore. Oh, Eeyore, said Pooh sadly. I wanted a pumpkin, not a cucumber, and not a green ball. Oh well, moaned Eeyore. I suppose we can find something to do with it, whatever it is. Days and weeks passed. The green ball grew bigger and bigger. Pooh's tummy was growing bigger and bigger too. One morning, Pooh saw that a small part of the ball had turned orange. As the days went on, it became more and more orange. Then the air got cooler and the leaves fell from the trees. And on Pooh's vine was a huge orange pumpkin. Everyone gathered around Pooh and his pumpkin. They looked from Pooh to the pumpkin and from the pumpkin back to Pooh. That pumpkin looks just like your tummy, Pooh, laughed Tigger. Silly old bear, said Christopher Robin. You gave the pumpkin so much care that you grew along with it. "Let's all carve the pumpkin into a jack-o'-lantern," said Christopher Robin. "Owl carved the eyes, Rabbit carved the nose, Piglet carved the mouth." Pooh's pumpkin was the best jack-o'-lantern in the 100-acre wood. 5 little pumpkins. 5 little pumpkins sitting on a gate. The first one says, "Oh my, it's getting late." The second one says, "There are witches in the air." The third one says, "But we don't care." The fourth one says, "Let's run and run and run." The fifth one says, "We're ready for some fun." Ooh, ooh, went the wind. And out went the light. And the 5 little pumpkins rolled out of sight. Pooh's pumpkin surprise. One bright fall day, Pooh and Piglet found a golden pumpkin. "Let's take it home," said Pooh with a big smile. "Stop right there, Buddy Bear," said Tigger, bouncing up to Pooh. "That's my pumpkin." Then Rabbit arrived, hopping mad. "That's my pumpkin," he cried. Eeyore walked over. "Orange," he said gloomily. "My favorite color for a pumpkin. But we can't all have pumpkins, and some of us don't." "Oh bother," said Pooh. "Who gets the pumpkin?" Then Pooh's tummy let out a familiar growl, and suddenly the answer was as simple as pie. Pumpkin pie, that is. Everyone had a slice. Yum! The Pumpkin Book. Pumpkins come in all shapes and sizes. Pumpkins are members of the squash family. There are many different kinds of pumpkins. Small pumpkins, big pumpkins, round pumpkins, tall pumpkins. Gardeners and farmers call them pumpkin varieties. Some pumpkins have a smooth skin and others have lots of bumps. In the springtime, when the sun's rays begin to warm the soil, it is planting time. Some gardeners turn the soil to get it ready to plant a small pumpkin patch. A pumpkin patch is where pumpkins are grown. Some farmers use their plows to slice through and turn over the dirt. The field will eventually be a huge pumpkin patch. The soil is ready. It is time to plant the pumpkin seeds. The beginning of a pumpkin is curled up inside each pumpkin seed. Food is stored there too. The seed has a seed coat on the outside to protect it. The bigger the seed, the bigger the variety of pumpkin that will grow. Sometimes pumpkin seeds are planted in rows. Other times they are planted in small circular areas called hills. Several shallow holes are poked into the hill, and one pumpkin seed is dropped into each hole and covered with dirt. Each hill should be about 3 feet to 6 feet apart to give the plants lots of room to grow. A pumpkin seed won't sprout until the dirt is warm and water has soaked the seed to soften its coat. Once the seed coat breaks open, a root begins to grow down into the soil. It takes in water and minerals from the soil for food. After about 1 week, 2 leaves appear where each pumpkin seed was planted. These smooth leaves are called seed leaves. They begin to make more food for the plant from the sunlight and air. After a few days, small pumpkin vine leaves appear. These leaves look different. They are prickly and have rough, jagged edges. More new vine leaves grow. Stems begin to grow and twist, crawling along the ground as they become vines. The vines grow thicker and thicker. They grow curly tendrils that wrap themselves around other parts of the plant to help spread the vines. Gold-colored flowers begin to bloom. A pumpkin begins to grow when a grain of pollen from the stamen of a male pumpkin flower lands on the stigma of a female pumpkin flower. This is called pollination. Sometimes, pollen moves from flower to flower when the wind blows. Bees and other insects help pollinate too. Pollen rubs off and on their bodies as they travel from flower to flower in search of nectar. The female flower has a small green ball beneath its blossom. When the flower is pollinated, the little ball begins to grow. It is a very, very small pumpkin. Over time, it becomes bigger. And bigger and bigger. The pumpkin's skin begins to turn from green to orange. All of the pumpkins in the pumpkin patch begin to turn orange. In the fall, when the vines begin to dry up and die, it's harvest time. It usually takes from 80 to 120 days, depending on the variety, for a seed to grow into a ripened pumpkin. It is ready to pick if it feels hard on the outside and sounds hollow when it's tapped. Often shears are used to clip the pumpkins from their vines, leaving about 3 inches of stem. The stem helps to keep the harvest pumpkin from getting moldy. During the fall, more and more pumpkins of many shapes and sizes appear at roadside stands and in stores. Fall makes people think of country fairs. Sometimes awards are given for the biggest, the prettiest, or the strangest pumpkin grown. The biggest pumpkin ever grown was in New York State in 1996. It weighed about as much as a small car, 1,061 pounds. At fairs there are pumpkin pie tasting contests too. When the Pilgrims came to the New World, friendly Native American Indians showed them how to plant pumpkins. Often, the Indian women were the pumpkin farmers of their tribes. The Pilgrims ate pumpkin every day in different forms, such as pumpkin bread, pumpkin pie, and pumpkin seed cereal. Thanksgiving reminds people of the Pilgrims' first harvest season. They wanted to give thanks for the food they would have through the cold winter months. They celebrated by having a Thanksgiving feast. Halloween is on October 31st. A long time ago, people believed that ghosts, witches, and goblins roamed around that night. Some people built bonfires to scare them away. Later, October 31st was called All Hallows Eve, which means Holy Evening. It was the night before a church festival called All Hallows, or All Saints' Day. All Hallows Eve was shortened to Halloween. Today, Halloween is celebrated in different ways. There are pumpkins. It's great fun to carve pumpkins into what you want them to be. Funny pumpkins, scary pumpkins, beautifully carved pumpkins. Some people place a candle or a light inside and light it so the pumpkin will shine in all its glory on Halloween night. Other people decorate pumpkins with paint, glitter, and other decorations. These pumpkins can last a long time because they haven't been carved. No two pumpkins are alike. They all have their very own personalities. All lined up on Halloween night, they are a glowing sight to behold. Isn't it amazing that all this began with a few small pumpkin seeds? Glow pumpkins, glow!